You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. This is episode 52, and boy, has it been a while since I've said that, or what? Like, I feel like it's been nearly a year since I last made my last episode. It was, November? Anthony Johnson had just died, I think. I think Alex Pereira had just TKO'd Israel Adesanya to win the middleweight championship. A lot had happened. And then I just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I went into like fucking uber focus mode on finding a job, focusing on like raising my kid, spending time with my family. Completely forgot about the podcast. Completely neglected it. Big like mistake on my part. I can't even I don't know. I can't even make an excuse for that. There's no excuses. I forgot about the podcast. And that's on me. I missed you guys, though. I miss doing this. I'm going to try to find a lot more time for this. It might not be every week, but every other week or so, at least monthly. I want to try to get back into this because I miss you guys. I miss talking about MMA. I miss talking about random topics before the MMA. I don't know. Just, I got this motivation. I miss you guys. It's been a long time. A lot has happened, especially in the MMA world. A lot has happened in my world. I am a full-time, I'm a bud tender. I work full-time, so I'll try to find time to do this consistently because I want to get back into it consistently. But yeah, I've got a full-time job doing something that I absolutely love. It pays poorly, I'll admit, but it's something that I absolutely love. I've always loved educating people on the topic of cannabis, cannabinoids, different consumption ways of cannabis, distillate, all that shit. Anything that has anything to do with weed. I always loved educating people on it. It was a little kind of secret of mine. I've never really actually talked about it on the podcast or anything, but I really noticed it after I married my wife. And my wife kind of started, getting more involved in consuming cannabis because I was, and asking all these questions. And when I was, trying to explain this shit to her, I realized I really enjoyed it. And I became a bud tender recently, as recent as maybe 7 months ago. So I've been doing that. I'm a key holder there, so I've got some responsibility there. So I'm working a lot more there. So I, even if I wanted to come back, I didn't really have much time for it, but I really want to come back because I miss you guys. There's a lot happening right now. We're in the middle of tough. We're actually not even in the middle of it. We're almost done. We're almost done the Ultimate Fighter. And it's a big Ultimate Fighter season. I kind of regret not making any type of episode when it was announced. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is a huge season. It's been crazy so far, but I feel like the payoff means nothing right now because as of recording this, which is August 2nd, there's been no talks with Michael Chandler or Conor McGregor even getting close to agreeing to a fight deal. And that's really upsetting because a lot of the time when these coaches, when they face off on the Ultimate Fighter, they end up facing off in the finale, at some UFC event. If you guys didn't know, for example, what was it? Last year, or the year? No, okay, so last year, 2022, it was, I believe it was Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes. And they ended up fighting at the end of the year. And if I remember, Amanda Nunes beat the fucking brakes off of her. Also, but the one before that was Brian Ortega versus, Alexander Volkanovski. They ended up fighting, I think it was August or September after that season had finished airing. They had the finale on there. They had their matchup, which was a title fight, the big stakes. So, most of the time, a lot of these Ultimate Fighter face-offs between the between the coaches, they always end up in an actual fight on another card or at the finale. It doesn't sound like that's happening with these two. And honestly, it's kind of upsetting because that would have been an absolute banger fight. But something happened recently, as recent as this weekend, because this weekend was UFC 291, and some shit happened that completely shook up the lightweight division, and it just kind of changed where Connor's kind of focusing now. So, there's just been a little, well, I mean, there's always been a shakeup between the Connor versus Michael Chandler talks. It's gotten worse now with what happened at UFC 291, and we'll get into that in a tiny, tiny bit. This is going to be a bit of a shorter episode, but I wanted to kind of just spend a little bit of time talking about some stuff that's happened recently in pop culture and just kind of explaining where I've been, because I miss you guys, and I miss talking for you guys. Honestly, I don't know why I just kind of fucking up and disappeared. Just sitting here doing this for you guys, I've realized I actually enjoy talking. I actually enjoy just blabbing my mouth off, whatever the fuck it is. And I should have never went anywhere. I have no excuses for it, but you guys know now, I became very busy in the last couple months with my new job. I kind of just got into uber focus mode trying to find that job and just kind of, spending time with my family, raising my kid who's like a year and 4 months now, I think, around there. He's 15 months. It's insane. And he's just growing like a bad weed. But he's got the greatest personality ever. And honestly, being a dad is one of the most rewarding things ever. Okay. Gonna be real with you guys for a second. Okay? I don't think I ever really get this real with you guys. But back in August of 2021, it was like late August, my wife and I, like, we found out that my wife was pregnant, and I'm gonna be real with you guys, I didn't want it. I wasn't ready for it. But I manned up. I stepped up. I was there, I was there to hold her hand, and I was there with her every single step of the way. I went to every ultrasound appointment, every doctor's appointment that I could go to, that I was allowed to go to, because COVID restrictions and all that. It's I'm gonna be real with you guys. I was scared. I wasn't ready, but it's worth it. I regret feeling the way I did. I know it's normal. I know it's a normal thought for a new parent to have. I don't want this kid. What if something happens? I was scared, and I regret feeling that way, because it's been worth it every step of the way. He's aggravating. Let's be real. Kids are aggravating, but raising my kid has been nothing short of rewarding as well. He's got the silliest personality. He's very quickly become my little buddy. He becomes distraught if I leave the room. He always wants to goof around with me. It's so rewarding. I have a little buddy now. And I like to put it this way, because it makes me smile to think about. I have a buddy to bully in Halo now. I can go back and play those old Halo games like Halo 2, Halo 3, and bully the hell out of him. like he's my little sibling, but also, raise him and turn him into this incredible man. And I can't wait for it. So, real talk for a second, guys. Being a dad has become one of the most rewarding things that could ever possibly happen in my life. And that's even above getting married. That's above getting, I guess, technically my dream job, educating people on cannabis. It trumps all that. Being a dad trumps every single bit of that. I genuinely am so grateful for my child. But anyway, enough of that gospel shit. What happened this week in pop culture? What happened? Well, for us Canadians, our Prime Minister just separated from his wife today. A lot of us believed that, she was kind of in his ear a good portion of his term, his current term as well. And a lot of the dumb decisions he's making is because of her. So it's kind of like a hallelujah to a lot of us. But at the same time, I think he's always just been a fucking idiot. So it's kind of like a ha-ha situation. On top of that, Lizzo's in the news for something I didn't think that she would have been in the news for. Not the whole sexual harassment thing. she's kind of been a weird duck always, so I kind of saw her doing something kind of weird like that. But she's also facing a lawsuit of like emotional damages because of fucking fat shaming, body shaming. I don't want to be that guy, all right? I don't want to be that asshole, but like, ain't she like the last person to be body shaming someone or fat shaming someone? Like, she's the size of a fucking beluga whale. Didn't think that she had any room or any grounds or any feet to stand on to body shame anyone. So, I mean, kind of surprising. But yeah, 3 backup dancers of hers have filed a lawsuit against her, and there, as of recording, there has been no statement given whatsoever. Nothing. Literally nothing. Nothing has been given. Nothing has been told. Nothing has been talked about. She has not made a single statement whatsoever. And this has been at least 2 days now that this has been a thing. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. I'm baffled that, like, the person that is very much for body positivity has been called out for body shaming her backup dancers. Which I find so fucking bizarre. But I know you guys probably didn't want to hear that, but it's such a topic that I wanted to talk about because it was silly. It's not something that I'm like outraged about. I think it's fucking bizarre. I think it's bizarre that like this woman who is literally the size of a fucking Snorlax, like quite literally the physical human embodiment of the Pokemon Snorlax, and she's out here body shaming her backup dancers. What the fuck? She is a 5-minute jog away from having a fatal heart attack, but she's gonna body shame her fucking her backup dancers? Like, I'm baffled, man. I'm baffled. It's bizarre. It is a bizarre situation. On top of that, I guess Trump's been indicted for the whole January 6th thing. A lot's been happening, to say the least. Holy shit. But that being said, there's also been quite a bit that's been happening in the MMA world. I'm going to yet another live event this weekend because it's my birthday. So Saturday, I'm going to be heading to Kitchener to be going to see BTC Promotions 21, BTC Fight Night Kitchener. And in the main event is UFC veteran Jesse Ronson going up against MMA veteran Woody Chavez. And they're going up against each other for the inaugural BTC Welterweight Championship. Also on the card is a buddy of mine, Gino Galaparades, who I actually want to get on the fucking podcast and talk to because he's such a cool dude. But also on the card is TJ Laramie's little brother, Tony Laramie, so that's going to be cool. Quite a bit of cool fights for a regional card. I'm very excited for it. It's not going to be one of those BTC promotion cards where it's at their gym in Burlington. Like, it's in an actual arena in Kitchener, so the atmosphere is going to be bonkers. I'm going to try to get a little bit of footage to kind of get for you guys for the YouTube channel and stuff, but I may be so, like, distracted, so focused on the fights that may not happen. But, you know, I'll try my best for you guys. I'm really excited for it. It's my first event since PFC 14. I've been trying so hard to get to another MMA event, but, like, none of them have been around here. All of them have been in fucking Toronto. I'm not going to Toronto for a fight night, especially to a nightclub for a fight night, because a lot of the fight cards have either been in Alberta, at a casino in Niagara, or at the Rebel nightclub in Toronto, and I'm not going to either of those. I'll go to the Odd because it's an actual good venue to go to, or if it comes to London, like Prospect 19 supposedly is going to be, then I'll go to that. But, like, yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to go to a good portion of these fight cards, unless it's like a UFC fight card in Toronto or a UFC fight card in Niagara, which I don't ever see that happening, but it would be cool. Then I would go. But for regional fight cards, if they're a little bit more closer in distance for me, then I'm going to try to go to them, like this one. So I'm so excited for this, because the last event that I went to, if you guys don't remember, I think it was just like maybe 2 weeks before my last episode, I went to PFC 14. It was a charity event run by Prospect, and it was incredible. We had UFC veteran Kyle Prepolek on the card, and then fucking Ultimate Warrior Challenge veteran Marcus Alipido, just, going up against him, and it ended in a spectacular KO. Gino was on the card too, so yeah, when I got the tickets for BTC and then they started announcing the fights, I was like, hey man, like, what are the odds that my second actual live event I go to, you're fighting on the card again? What the fuck? So, maybe after the fights, or maybe a little bit before the fights, I'll get him on the podcast to talk about him, but most likely probably after the fights I'll get him on the podcast to kind of reflect whether he wins or loses. It doesn't matter. We're going to support the heel on this podcast anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I'm excited. So, to say the least, I'm excited. I've been rambling, though. I want to get into some of the fights that happened this weekend so you guys can know why the lightweight division's a little bit shooken up a bit. And also the upcoming fight cards that are happening, because we have some pretty decent fight nights. They may not look good on paper, but, like, I gotta tell you, for someone who knows his shit, for someone who watches the regional cards, the more lower level cards, I know these fighters to be bangers. So I'm excited for them. But let's get into those. Before we do that, though, I haven't done this in a while, and I'm excited to do it. But how about a message from our lovely sponsor, Dubby? Yeah, I'm still with them, and I still drink them. So why don't we hear about that? Before we get into the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about my new sponsor, Dubby. What is Dubby? Dubby is a powdered energy drink that is actually a clean energy drink that's made to give you a focus with no crash or jitters or any angst that the other energy drinks on the market give you. They're also made with no maltodextrin fillers. They don't use any artificial dyes or any coloring, anything like that. And on top of that, Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, nootropics, and caffeine that keeps you going. And on top of that, it's gluten-free. So if you're worried about your gluten intake, it's okay. These guys got you covered. And if you're worried about it coming out of a facility that's not FDA approved or FDA inspected, these guys, they're doing it legit. Their product's made in an FDA inspected facility, and their product is FDA approved. So if you want to try any of these awesome flavors, because let's be honest, I'm about to tell you this, their flavors are all unique. You're not going to find a flavor anywhere else, only here at Dubby. So if you want to try 3 of their awesome new flavors in a starter pack with your own mixer cup, go on their website, pick the starter pack. It's $14.99. If you want to get 10% off of it, use Dillo's Dojo at checkout. That's DILLOS at checkout for 10% off. Once again, I want to thank Dubby for sponsoring the podcast. Anyway, enjoy your Dubby drink if you manage to use my code. Let's get back to the fights, folks. All right, that felt good to do, honestly. That felt really good to do. So, let's get into these fights. This weekend was an incredible pay-per-view. The last 3 pay-per-views have delivered, except for maybe the main event of 289. But like every pay-per-view besides that has delivered. It's been incredible. This one is no exception. So I'm just telling you. Let's just get into, like, even from the beginning, starting on the early prelim card, we had Miranda Maverick versus Priscilla Cachoeira. And that was just an absolute fucking domination by Miranda Maverick from start to finish. Priscilla Cachoeira put the fight on her, but like as soon as it got to the ground, it was like entirely Miranda Maverick's fight. Entirely. She completely dominated Cachoeira on the ground up until I think it was like the 3rd round. She landed, or she started to extend on an armbar, and it looked like it wasn't even like fully extended. It just looked like Cachoeira was just completely exhausted. So she just tapped and just gave Maverick the win. But then the next fight was an absolute slobber knocker. It was Uros Medic versus Matthew Semmelsberger, and both guys were fucking slugging it. Matthew Semmelsberger had Medic hurt in the first round. Medic, near the end of the first round, after like surviving the storm, had Semmelsberger hurt. And then the second round, both guys were just trading punches, barely hurting each other, but like landing hard, landing with vicious intent. 3rd round, it's the same fucking story. And then as Semmelsberger's coming in against the cage, Uros Medic moves out of the way slightly, goes for a spinning back fist, and hurts Semmelsberger and follows up with punches and finishes the fight. It was a beautiful fucking combo. I loved it. It was like, holy shit, this is a great way to start out the card. So then we moved on to the regular preliminary card. And Jake Matthews versus Darius Flowers. my God, man, Darius Flowers came out wanting to take Jake Matthews' head off, and he almost did, but Jake Matthews rallied back, figured out a game plan, realized Darius Flowers is very weak on the ground, took him out, took his back by round 2, and just sunk in that rear naked choke. It was beautiful. And if that wasn't enough for your bloodlust, we had another finish after that. We had Roman Kopylov, or I like to call him Big Buff Chase Hooper, because he's literally just middleweight Chase Hooper, changed my mind, against Claudio Ribeiro. Just incredible fight. Both guys bringing their all, but Roman Kopylov showing that he has fucking power, man. Hurt Claudio Ribeiro in the first round. Clearly had him on the ropes. Second round comes in. They're feeling each other out. Roman Kopylov throws a beautiful high kick over the top, lands it, knocks him out cold. Like, out cold. It was beautiful. Then we had... It was supposed to be a flyweight fight. But I think it was last minute, so they agreed on catch weight. I think it was like I think CJ Vergara came in on short notice or something like that. I can't remember. Or no, wait, I think it was Vinicius Salvador had like a terrible weight cut. Yeah, he had a terrible weight cut. Looked brutal. He always does. I'm going to be honest with you. It's the guy who a while ago, if some of you fans remember, he had the old Ronaldinho haircut. Where it was all bald at the back and then like a patch of hair at his forehead, basically. He had that. And he won. He won the fight with that hairstyle. It was fucking ridiculous. But yeah, I guess he had a rough weight cut. Came in like 3 pounds over, 2.5 pounds over. So it ended up being a catch weight. CJ Vergara comes in though, both guys slugging it out, and he inches out a 29-28 decision with his grappling. But it was a beautiful fight. Both guys landing clean. Both guys throwing leg kicks like they're fucking candy, man. Like, it was brutal. It was just honestly wonderful. Welterweight. We have Gabriel Bonfim, one of the Bonfim brothers, versus Trevin Giles, who's coming up from lightweight. I think both guys were actually coming up from lightweight, if I'm not mistaken. But I know Trevin Giles for sure was coming up from lightweight. And this fight ended rather quickly. It was immediately gone to the ground. And Gabriel Bonfim lands a guillotine choke that just is sunk in. Like, immediately as he grabs it on. There's no period where he's trying to kind of sink it in or trying to slip it in. He sinks it in, and it's in. Like, it's deep. And he forces the tap. Trevin Giles out of there. Then we move to the main card, and it's like, where'd the time go? You know, the night ended really early. There was times where, like, between fights, you had to basically, like, just burn time. And that's when we got to our main card. Opening up the main card, because if I remember, it was supposed to be Kevin Holland versus Michael Chiesa to kind of cap off the prelims. Unfortunately, Stephen Thompson and Michel Pereira kind of, it got canceled. Michel Pereira had a rough weight cut, had a couple hours to come in and cut to 170. Couldn't make the weight cut. Stephen Thompson decided he wasn't going to take the risk, and he didn't want to fight. It's a whole controversy right now. Like, side note, he did this, he made this decision. I kind of respect the decision as a competitor, as somebody who, like, he's not getting any younger. He's getting older. He's trying to be smart with his body. He's trying to be smart with how many years he's got left in this sport, and taking a huge risk against a very explosive guy like Michel Pereira, who's like 29 years old, very explosive striker, very explosive grappler, a literal ball of energy, and now he's a couple pounds over, and you've just come in a grueling weight cut and you've made weight. Of course he's not going to take the risk. I'm not judging him at all. If this was like 34, 33-year-old Stephen Thompson and he did this, then yeah, I would probably be judging him. But this is like almost 40-year-old Stephen Thompson. I think he has every right to he has every right to say no. I'm just going to say this though. If he expects to make it to the title picture anytime soon, doing stuff like this isn't going to help his case. So I don't think he should expect the title picture anytime soon, or like a contender shot with his next fight, because him doing this kind of hurts his reputation. Clearly, Dana wasn't outright with being mad, but they've withheld his show money. They didn't, like, obviously he's not going to get his win bonus, but they didn't even give him his show money. And I think that's kind of showing that Dana's pretty fucking mad at him. So, you know, the way that went, I don't know. But because of that, Kevin Holland and Michael Chiesa got bumped up to the main card. And something happened that I don't think anyone would have fucking imagined. Kevin Holland's a G on the ground, but Michael Chiesa is a top-tier grappler, an incredible wrestler. You wouldn't expect this to happen, but they're on the feet. Kevin Holland's threatening with his striking. Immediately, Michael Chiesa goes to the ground, and Kevin Holland, kind of starts trying to stuff it. They get to the ground, Kevin Holland gets on his ass, and then reverses it, ends up with Michael Chiesa on his back, and for a little bit, Kevin Holland's kind of landing some punches, threatening some pretty dangerous positions, and then as Michael Chiesa tries to roll out of it in like a north-south position, Michael Chiesa's in a north-south position, Kevin Holland slaps in a Darce choke, and then flips him over and turns it into a Bravo. And, like, it's deep. It forces Michael Chiesa to tap. It's deep. There's no way he's getting out. And it was just, like, the most insane. I mean, it was a Bravo choke, but you could have called it a Darce choke. It's basically a Darce choke. And it was just something unforeseen. But he also kind of... Okay, so here's the weird thing. He was being interviewed by the Fox desk leading up to this fight. And he said something that was kind of wild. He was like... He said this. He was like, I'm very confident in the matchup, but Kevin Holland is a stud on the ground. And he's pretty good with Darce chokes. And he's talking to DC in this context for the record. He's like, what's my weakness, DC? Or what has my weakness, or what losses have I had? What submission losses have I had on the ground? Darce chokes. What happened? He got caught in a form of Darce choke, forced to tap. Which is true. Every time you see Michael Chiesa get choked, other than the Kevin Lee fight, he's gotten choked to Darce chokes. He's gotten caught in Darces. But if that wasn't crazy enough, we had probably hands down the most heartbreaking fight of the night, which was Bobby Green versus Tony Ferguson. And no, before you guys ask, this isn't the fight that shook up the division. This was a fight that just broke the hearts of millions upon millions of MMA fans everywhere around the globe. Oh my God, my heart. So, both these guys... Okay, so Bobby Green is very known for not having a boring style, or at least recently. He used to kind of have a boring style. He was very reliant on his grappling. He still kind of is. Like, he still kind of is very reliant on his wrestling, but he's recently kind of fell back in love with his boxing. And because of that, he hasn't been in a boring fight recently. So they matched him up with also aging Tony Ferguson. I think Bobby Green's like 39. Ferguson's like 38. Both these guys are basically pushing 40. It was a great matchup. Absolutely incredible matchup. And I'm going to admit, even though Tony looked a little washed, he looked good against Bobby Green. Bobby Green even said that. He was explosive. He showed he still had power. He dropped Bobby Green. Had him hurt, but Bobby Green, same thing, was hitting Tony, dropping him. It was just a back and forth fight, but then like as the fight went on, Bobby Green was still kind of feeling a little bit fresh. Tony, on the other hand, you could tell was waning, bro, and it was starting to get upsetting. He was very slow, but you could tell he was kind of slow, like leading into the fight, because honestly, man, like he does his typical like his little ankle pick, his fake ankle pick, like slide thing before every fight. When he did that, he looked so slow, he could barely even do it, man. It was upsetting to look at. So upsetting. But, lead to that, the second round starts, Bobby Green's starting to run away with it. Third round comes, it's almost the end of the fight, and Bobby Green catches Tony Ferguson in a deep arm triangle choke, and Tony, I wish Tony was not as much of a warrior as he is, but Tony wriggled and squirmed, refused to tap, went out cold, forced the ref to step in, didn't even tap, just went out cold. It was so upsetting to watch. And then afterwards, he didn't even announce his retirement, which made things worse. The decision gets announced, and you can see he's visibly upset. It was just upsetting. But it's crazy. 291 was a roller coaster of emotions, because the next fight, we had Derek Lewis versus Marcos Rogero de Lima, and true to classic Derek Lewis fashion, he comes in, and within 33 fucking seconds, flying knees DeLima and then TKOs him on the ground because he had him hurt very badly. It was insane. Like, insane. And then afterwards, he takes his fucking shorts off, goes to Joe Rogan, and basically reiterates his old-fashioned classic, "My balls is hot" line. Oh my god, it was incredible. And then afterwards, after the entire pay-per-view is happening, like, you know, the backstage interview they're doing, he's talking about busting his wife's guts when he gets home. It's the funniest fucking shit ever. It was classic Derek Lewis. He was on some, like, where's Ronda Rousey's fine ass at like, bullshit. It was great. It was wonderful. But that all came ahead and kind of got destroyed when the most controversial fight of the night happened. It was a great fight. Nothing bad happened during the fight. But Alex Pereira versus Jan Blachowicz at light heavyweight. Alex Pereira making his light heavyweight debut. Jan Blachowicz trying to show the new guy, "Hey, Bo, you don't belong here, dude. Get out of here." And, well, Alex Pereira proved that he belongs there. Because he does. And all fight, except for the first round, Jan had him very, very much in trouble. Had his back, threatened a couple submissions, but after those two submissions, it seemed like Pereira kind of figured out the hands and just was kind of cool, was kind of willing to just chill there until he found an opening, and then eventually he did. Near the end of the round, they got up. Second round, it was clear because Jan the whole time was trying to maintain position. He was getting tired. So leading into the second round, Jan's getting tired. Pereira starts to land a little bit more, starts to land the more meaningful shots. Leading to the third round, same thing. He's landing way more shots than Jan. He's landing more clean, more meaningful. And then Jan lands a takedown at the end of the round and has everybody thinking he won the fight. But Alex Pereira ended up stealing the fight away from him via a 29-28 split decision and had the internet erupting in robberies. And even Jan Blachowicz himself stating in the post-fight interview and the post-fight press conference that he got robbed. And he's still, to this day, saying that he got robbed. So it was kind of a little bit of a stain on otherwise an incredible night. And then we got to the main event. The main event that would have been literally violence personified. And it was Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier 2 for the BMF belt. I could give or take. Like, I could literally care less about the BMF belt. That could have been on the line, or that couldn't have been on the line. It was just on the line because Dana needed a title on the line and he didn't want to make an interim. But let's be real. The BMF title is essentially an interim lightweight title because I'll tell you in a bit. Let's just get into the fight. We're expecting pure, unadulterated violence from these guys, and that's exactly what we got. But then, on top of that, on top of the pure, unadulterated violence we got from these guys, we also got an absolutely spectacular KO to finish it off. So, first round was incredible. Dustin Poirier and Justin, they're just trading punches. He's throwing head kicks. Poirier's blocking them. But, like, they're landing so hard that they look like they're getting through. And it's happening over and over again. Poirier's just allowing it, but Poirier's also countering with some nice hooks. One that actually kind of wobbled Gaethje a little bit, and also Dustin got wobbled. We'll also mention that. But then the second round comes, and they're kind of doing the same thing for the first almost minute. A minute's rolling up, and Gaethje throws the head kick that he's been throwing all night. It's a nice, beautiful little right high kick over the top. And the way that it's so picture perfect, the way that that Dustin kind of like leans with it, the way that it lands almost like it wraps around the head to the back of the head, and it stiffened him up for the moment, had him drop to the canvas, bounce his head. He was out cold. Dustin was out cold. Justin Gaethje KO'd Dustin Poirier with a fucking beautiful head kick and becomes the BMF champion of the world. And so with that, has kind of invited some conversation. Is he going to be next for Islam Makhachev? Should Charles kind of, stay in line and kind of wait a bit, have another fight, maybe have Charles versus Dustin 2 for like a number one contender shot, winner of Gaethje versus Makhachev? We don't know. There's also talks now. Conor has been flapping his fucking gums, wanting a piece of Gaethje. Gaethje's playing mental mind games, saying like, I don't want him, dude. Like, he's begging for a shot now. Just months ago, I was telling him, hey man, let's fight, and he was telling me to beg for it. He's the one begging for it now. I don't want it. So, a lot of shit is happening. It's shooking up the whole division. Nobody knows what's happening. They don't know if Gaethje's going to be next. They don't know if like Charles is going to be next. They don't know if Islam's going to sit on the sidelines. There's supposedly talks that there might be Makhachev versus Charles at 294 in October, but then there's also talks that Charles doesn't want that right away. He wants December. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So, like, I don't know, man. It's like I said, it's a whole thing. I don't want to get too much into it, but hopefully it gets figured out soon. But that's essentially why, earlier I mentioned, Chandler versus Conor is not going to happen after TUF. That's kind of why. Not only was he kind of giving Chandler the runaround to begin with, as this season's been airing, but now that Gaethje kind of has something that might lead to a title shot, and Gaethje has been kind of talking shit and calling him out for the past year, I think it might have shaken up things a bit. They don't know whether to give him a title shot. They don't know whether to give him the Conor fight, because either way, Gaethje gets a title shot, it's going to do numbers because, Makhachev's going to bring in that Muslim audience, and everybody loves violence personified Justin Gaethje. Or, they don't know whether they do that or to match him up with Conor McGregor, who's just going to bring in all the fucking casuals and bring in massive, massive amounts of numbers. It's just a whole thing. But that was how 291 went. It was incredible. Besides all that, the way it ended was spectacular. I was left wanting more because it was just so fucking incredible. I didn't want the night to end. It was awesome. But by the time the main event happened and it came and went, I was like, I wasn't disappointed. I was just hungry for more. I wanted more fights. So after that, I went and watched Bellator X Risen too. So, that was cool. But yeah, incredible card. And then 290 before that was incredible. 292 is the one I want to talk about though, because if these last three fucking pay-per-views haven't been enough, 289 was spectacular. All the Canadians won in absolute slobber knockers or spectacular fashion. The co-main event ended in an amazing fashion, but obviously the Amanda Nunes fight was a little slow. 290 was just violence personified and excitement from start to finish. From the beginning of the night to Volkanovski and Rodriguez, it was just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So, on top of that, with 291 ending the way it is, I have to talk about 292 because, you guys have to fucking listen to this card. To start off, so everybody knows the main event is Aljamain Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. That's been a huge thing for a while. Everybody's been kind of hyped about it, rightfully so. But Amanda Lemos is fighting Zhang Weili for the strawweight championship, and if that wasn't enough, Chito Vera versus Pedro Munoz is on there. Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, which is going to be an incredible fight because Ian Gary is this Conor McGregor wannabe, but not as douchey and not as annoying. And he's he talks the talk and walks the walk. He doesn't just talk the talk. He's proven so far that he's this incredible striker, that he's just getting better as he keeps fighting, as he learns, as he's getting older. But he's got a huge test in Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal is an older guy, an absolute veteran, has fucking power out of hell, and wrestling to boot. It might be very much just a losing battle for Ian Gary, but we'll see, and I'm excited for that. And then if that wasn't enough, Cody Garbrandt's back, Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares, Andre Petroski's challenging himself against GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. And then there's Andrea Lee, Gregory Rodriguez, Marina Moroz. It's going to be incredible. I don't think that's the full card either. I think they're still kind of announcing a couple of things. But it's stacked. It's a stacked card so far, and with more fights being announced, I'm excited. So that's the next pay-per-view. And I'm telling you, with those fights, it's going to be a banger, man. And then on top of that, after that, we get Max Holloway versus TKZ. We get Max Holloway versus Chan Sung Jung. Like, what the fuck, man? Before that, we get Vicente Luque versus Dos Santos. Next week, or technically this coming week, so August 5th, we get fucking Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font at catchweight. And like, hold on, let me just read this fucking main card for you, because like on paper it doesn't sound incredible, but like, just listen to this, all right? So we got Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font, and then Jessica Andrade's coming in versus Tatiana Suarez, Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Nzechukwu, and then Diego Lopez versus Gavin Tucker, which is incredible. Tanner Bosner versus Alexa Kammer, and then Ignacio Bahamondes versus Ludwig Klein. That's going to be fucking a banger. Ignacio Bahamondes has just elite level striking. Spin kicks for days, man. Ludwig Klein is a dog. Has power, is well-rounded, and is tough as they come, man. So, I don't know. The card may not sound incredible on paper, but I'm telling you, it's going to be fun. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss it because I'm pretty sure it's in Nashville. They're probably going to start it around the time that my fight card starts, like my live fight card starts, so I won't be able to catch it, but I'll probably watch it the next day. Like, on my way home from my parents, because I'm going to visit my parents this weekend, I'll probably watch it then. I'm excited for it. Just for the next couple days, like the next couple weeks, we have incredible fights, and I'm excited for it. But anyway, that's it for today's episode. I know it was a little bit shorter. We're running on like almost 40-something minutes now. I know I probably could have done a longer one. I've been kind of rushing through everything, and I know, I admit, it's kind of shitty how I just kind of said, hey, I'm back. But I'm back. I'm going to try to do one at the very least once a month, because I want to keep this kind of steady. But with my schedule, we'll see what I can do. But I'm going to be real with you guys. It feels good to be back. It feels good to be doing this for you guys again. And I can't wait for this to come out. It'll probably be Thursday morning, because I'm recording this on Wednesday, so August 3rd. So if you guys are listening as this is coming out, I hope you guys have a wonderful Thursday. If you guys are listening to this later on, like on the weekend, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And once again, it's just good to be back. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next episode. I'm going to be a little sentimental for a moment, but I love you guys, and I'm so glad to be back. Have a wonderful week.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.